All right, now as you're doing this, one of the things that you've got to take into consideration is the thickness of the line. You know, when we just draw a line, it's not very thick, but as we look, and these are some past examples, notice there is a different thickness here between this border and this border. And what that is basically telling you, our cutter diameter is responsible for that. So we need to take into consideration what the diameter of the cutter is going to be. In this case, this was probably a 1/16 of an inch diameter cutter. Here we've got a 1/4 of an inch diameter cutter here, and here is a 1/8 of an inch diameter there. So as you think about it, even though we might just draw lines on here, so that with the tracing this out, think about how the width of that cutter or the width of the line would be. Now, if you can kind of zoom in here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So with this particular image, and this is a good image in a way because it does have different thicknesses, and you can see that. So you could say when you trace this out, well, notice here is about an 1/8 of an inch. If I'm going to use an 1/8 of an inch cutter, so I can go off of the center of this when I trace it, or I can actually draw out that thickness. Now, let's talk about what the actual 1/8 of an inch cutter would be on here. If you think about this, we made our blocks 100 thousandths by 100 thousandths. That means on a block like this, our actual cutter would be just a little bit over that 100 thousandths. So this is a scaled representation, but our cutter size, if it's an 1/8 of an inch, is about like this. If we're talking about a 1/4 of an inch, well, what's a 1/4? Here's 100 thousandths, 200 thousandths. So the 1/4 of an inch would basically be roughly about 4 of these blocks to represent a little bit more than 4 of these blocks representing a 1/4 of an inch diameter cutter. So you got to also consider the size of the diameter of your cutter there too as you're trying to plan out and think about how you're going to be programming these parts.